What happens when you take one of hip-hop's most iconic beats and give it to one of rap's biggest stars? You get a firestorm of controversy, and Joe Budden is right in the center of it. Welcome back to the channel where we break down the biggest stories in hip-hop culture. In the past week, Joe Budden unleashed a brutal critique of Cardi B's new single, Imaginary Players, which samples Jay-Z's 1997 classic, Imaginary Players. Budden didn't just criticize the track. He declared some beats should remain completely off-limits to new artists. Today we're breaking down exactly what went down, why this matters, and what it says about the unwritten rules of hip-hop sampling. Stick around. First, let's talk about Budden's core argument. On his podcast, the veteran rapper-turned-media personality made several pointed criticisms. He acknowledged Cardi's writers killed with the bars, but argued that execution matters more than lyrics in this case. Budden specifically stated, "Don't take any East Coast top 3-4 rapper beat classic song and redo that." This speaks to a deeper hip-hop philosophy, that certain beats carry such cultural weight that they become untouchable artifacts. What makes this particularly interesting is that Cardi B actually got Jay-Z's blessing to use the sample, proving that even when you clear something legally, you might not clear it culturally. Budden's making the case that some beats are so iconic that no amount of technical permission makes them artistically approvable.
The record. What's Joe Budden's take on it? She shouldn't do that again.
Which part?
Don't do that again.
Do what? Do the record.
Don't take any East Coast top 3-4 rapper beat, classic song, and redo that. Because Imani was right. Even it's given remnants of that because of the flow and the emulation and the pocket and what you did. Mm-hmm. We're gonna shout out the writers. The writers killed. This is not about the writers. Mm-hmm. The writers killed. Mm-hmm. I agree with y'all that said this is well written.
The
bars are there.
Yes.
That wasn't enough.
Now let's get into the technical criticism. Budden zeroed in on Cardi's delivery, describing it as choppy with too many punch-ins. He contrasted this with Jay-Z's original performance, emphasizing Hov's cadence, flow, aura, and voice control. But here's where it gets fascinating. Budden played a fan edit circulating on X that placed Cardi's vocals over Junior M.A.F.I.A's Get Money instrumental instead, and declared it sounded much better. This demonstration was actually brilliant, because it proved Budden's point wasn't really about Cardi's ability. It was about context and compatibility. As he explained, it's only the Imaginary Players beat that's making her sound like you shouldn't be on here. The right vocal and the right instrumental need to create alchemy. And in this case, Budden argues the classic beat overpowered the modern artist. Third, we have to address the cultural context and reaction. While Budden criticized the track, the controversy has actually driven listeners back to Jay-Z's original. Spotify reported a 305% increase in streams of Imaginary Players in the days following Cardi's release and Budden's comments.
But commercially, Cardi's version underperformed expectations, debuting at 147 on Spotify US and 56 on Apple Music. This raises questions about whether listeners subconsciously agree with Budden's assessment, or if this is just typical podcast exaggeration. Budden himself suggested that if this had been released as a freestyle rather than an official single, the reaction might have been completely different. So, what's the final verdict? The Imaginary Players debate actually touches on something much deeper than one song. It's about hip-hop's relationship with its own history. When do classics become too sacred to touch? Who gets to decide which beats are off limits? And in an era of sampling and interpolation, how do we balance respect for the past with artistic innovation in the present? I want to hear from you. Do you agree with Joe Budden that some beats should remain untouched? Or should no beat be off limits if the artist can bring something new to it? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's get a real discussion going. And if you want more deep dives into hip-hop's biggest controversies, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you never miss our analysis. Thanks for watching.